Guys, it wasn't like just a tiny little bit. It was.
All right. Well, we're
like
live.
the size of Florida.
Just so everybody knows.
Say what? What
We're
did you
live.
just say, Fry?
We're
live? Like
we're
right
live.
now? Like we're started already?
Yes, Jared. Like right now.
Oh my gosh, somebody needs to clue me into these things. Hey everybody! So we got M. Scott Russell here, we got Fry in the house, and we got Shaun Keenan from Comics2Movies, baby. What's going on, Shaun?
G'day, guys. How you going?
Doing great.
Good old cliche. G'day.
I'm doing great. We get to talk to you, so we're doing awesome. So, first let's start off. Just so everybody knows, Shaun is in Australia. He is a creator publisher. So he writes and then he works with a group of people, and publishes his own. He's got several different titles. So Shaun, why don't you give us a nice introduction of yourself, please?
Yeah, so I'm the owner of a publishing business called Comics2Movies. So we've got work with about 16 different artists. We do limited edition fan art print, and 5 years ago we transferred onto the publishing platform and created a series called the Extreme Champion Tournament. That was my first foray into comics, and it's the #1 selling independent comic here in Australia. So we're just about to surpass 7,000 issues sold, and we've got a second series called Terra Olympus, and we're releasing our third one later this year, Talos of Sparta, with the idea in 2021 to actually open our publishing doors and start taking submissions and printing other people's work. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell. So
oh, fantastic. Okay, so so how did you hear about us? How did you hear about Crypto Comics Marketplace?
I had this annoying guy contact me on Facebook. His name was Jared. So
Thanks.
So you reached out. I don't even know how we found each other, to be honest. It was on Facebook, but you were like, oh look, can we have a 5-minute catch up? To be honest, it was like, oh, here we go. It's another online digital service. It's going to be the same as everything else. And to my pleasant surprise, when we were discussing this idea, I was like, damn, this is what comics is about. I think the digital side of things was you lost that collecting aspect to it, and crypto keeps that that collecting aspect of comics, but in a digital platform, and that's what I liked. That's what sold me, and that's how I found out about you guys. So you've been bugging me ever since.
Well, I have been bugging you ever since. I apologize for that, but
he is so good at it.
You're worth the bug.
He's so good at it.
That's why they call me the bug magnet. Well, and just so everybody knows, that one of the reasons why I was drawn to Shaun is because, as you can see with his the way that he markets himself, with the way that he posts and does things, I mean, he is a real pro. This guy is a real pro in the comic book industry, somebody who's grinding it out, who's doing what it takes to make a living in this space. And so we love you because you are exactly the people we want to help bolster up. So let's get into it. Can you tell me a little bit about the different titles that you have? So we've got XCT, and that's the actual issues we have in the marketplace right now. 2 of them, Spartacus and Revenge, that you can actually see. But then can you just give us some understanding of each title series that you have and what you're bringing in, what you're working on?
Yeah, so XCT is our flagship title. It's been around for 5 years. It's based just a little bit in the future, so it's where world's greatest fighters have been out of history, have been cloned, retrained, and then forced to fight in a UFC style gladiatorial combat. So
that was such an awesome twist, dude. That was such an awesome twist at the end of Spartacus, because I was like, man, this comic, I don't know how he's gonna take this anywhere, because they're just getting destroyed. They're like, is he gonna sprout superpowers or something? It was an awesome twist.
It's just like, if people don't know the story of Spartacus, he dies. So,
right.
So when I brought out the comic, a lot of people were like, "Well, this is gonna be a short fucking story," like, you know.
Right.
So the twist on me is I've always loved the UFC, and the Stars Spartacus series was on at the same time, and I was it was just after a John Bones Jones fight, and I was like, man, it would be really cool to see, like, you know, how John Bones Jones would go, like, versus an actual, like, fighter, because his fight IQ is so high. Like, you know, it'd be interesting to see them fight off against each other, and this is how this series was kind of born out of that idea. And I've always been intrigued by mythology and history and that type of stuff. So this was a really good opportunity, especially from, you know, you gave me great compliments in my marketing before, to be able to market this worldwide. So, you know, when I do posts in Japan, like, I focus on our samurai characters and everything like that to try and lure those readers in. When I talk about Europe, I post about Ragnar Lothbrok, and I talk about Spartacus to try and get the Europeans in. You know, in America, I've got our main villain is based on a Apache legend mythology, which is the Bayok, which is kind of like the Apache's boogeyman, what they used to tell their children, like, if you don't do what you're told, then, you know, the Bayok will come and get you. And he's really cool. He's like he's supposed to be like a translucent skeleton character, but I wanted to base this in a little bit more of a reality. So I've given all of the mythologies a human twist. So he's actually a real person type of thing, because, you know, with mythology and stories, things get blown up out of proportion. You know, I know myself, I used to play sport. You know, I used to, you know, kick 2 goals in a game, that turned to 5 goals, and that turned to 10 goals when I retell the story.
Nobody could stop me. I looked at the goal, and it was a goal.
Myself. So I think that's what really intrigued me about this. So yeah, we've got 5 single issues out, which are all up on the marketplace. We've got an anthology and a graphic novel, and we're now up on Kickstarter doing our latest graphic novel. So
now, tell us about the anthology, because you did that with I believe you have 2 anthologies. One you did with
Correct.
10 creators, and the other one you did with 5 creators.
Correct. Yeah. So the one with 5 where we haven't finished yet, so that'll be out hopefully later this year. I actually haven't told anyone that yet, so you heard it here first. So
spoiler alert.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been great. I've been, you know, pitching this idea as a TV series and that type of stuff, and some really good feedback I got was that if the amount of issues that I had, they would chew through that too quickly. You know, like you look at The Walking Dead, they had to kind of, you know, add bits in because they were catching up to where the series was too quickly. So the idea that I had was do an anthology, add in extra characters so that you could bring them into the universe and use them any way you wanted if it was ever created into a TV series or something like that. So and then, yeah, doing an anthology has just been great. You know, being able to work with other writers, other artists, and all that type of stuff, and then broaden that kind of network and that fan base is great as well.
So can you know, it truly takes an administrator to build a comic book, through all the different processes. And you're actually, with these anthologies, you're working with multiples in each category, right? Multiple writers, multiple artists, multiple, and each, like a different set would be working on a different issue. Can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah, so pretty much put out a call to artists and writers and kind of go, okay, who would like to be involved?
What was your call for the 10 creator anthology? What was that anthology about?
So it's called XCT Most Wanted. So it was 10 of the most wanted characters in the universe type of thing. So we introduced and did short stories on each individual characters. So that allowed us to build a backstory of some characters and then throw them straight into the series type of thing. So you can read the series without the anthology, but if you're like that person that likes the expanded universe, you can see I'm a Star Wars fan, always loved that expanded universe, then you can pick up the anthology and go, okay, I know a little bit more about this character and the reasonings behind certain things. But the best piece of advice I ever got was that if you're going to create something, to try and not be too rigid, and that, you know, if you're really involved with your fans, that sometimes they will have better ideas than you. So being open to that is a really good creative process. So I've taken that into everything that I've done. So I've added in characters, changed characters due to feedback that I've gotten from fans and everything. And doing an anthology, I kind of said to the creators, I tell you what, you can play in my universe. And other than certain rules or around that universe, I'll let you do what you want to do. I've never been that person that's like, oh, you have to do X, Y, Z, because if I did that, I might as well just do that myself. I might as well let them have a chance to play in my sandbox, as they say, type of thing. So that's the process that I've taken, and then the same process when I've worked with the artists and said, okay, here's the script. But if you think an extra page will work, if you think less panels on a page will work, well, then I'll leave that up to you. As long as I'm not getting charged for 50 pages rather than 15, I'm I'm happy to pay for an extra page or two if you think that will make the story work in the way your art style is. So and then I do the editing and that afterwards. So I'll actually change certain dialogue to fit into the artist's work type of thing. So that's how I work. I don't think everyone works like that, but that's just a different creative approach I've taken.
I have a question. So can you think of any times where those? Yeah, I always got questions, huh? Can you think of any times that you could relate to us where allowing that freedom for your team has really benefited in the story? Any specifics that you can share with us?
Well, one of my favorite short stories is done by Eddie Nunez. Like when I was speaking to Michael, who wrote the story, I was like, I've got this Achilles and an Ennio story that I like. They've changed Achilles' backstory because Ennio was a woman and women weren't really allowed to fight, so they changed it to his cousin. But he really loved this woman, and they were kind of like the Joker and Harley type of relationship. And I said to Michael, I've just got this image of Terminator when he walks into the cop station and obliterates everyone. And he wrote the story, and then Eddie did the artwork, and I'm just like, that's exactly what I was thinking. But he just like took it even further than I expected, and it was really great because these characters are killing all these police officers and everything, but the dialogue around it was really great because they're like, well, hang on a sec, you're cloning us and making us kill each other for your entertainment, so who's the bad guy? And that's what I've always like love about storytelling is like that. Sons of Anarchy is one of my favorite series, and the way they make you care about Jax, even though he's really an outlaw. He's doing the wrong thing. Like he's selling drugs and guns and everything. But you're like, oh, I don't want him to get caught. Oh, look what these cops are doing to this poor guy. When realistically, you know, he's a bad guy, but he's doing the wrong things for the right reasons. And that's this story I really love, because that's they get that feeling out of that in just 10 pages type of thing.
So I have a question for has there been a character that you've actually really wanted to add and just couldn't figure out a way to work them into this world? Like, I love how you're bringing everybody from, you know, from the Native Americans to, you know, Genghis Khan, the Frost Giants, everything like that. Has there been anybody you just can't make work?
Not yet, to be honest. And if I can't, that's where I do the call out for the anthologies and give that problem to someone else. And I think that's been the best part. If I have been stuck on certain characters, that's what I've done. I've put it out as a you know, the one I kind of struggled with was Blackbeard. I was like, you know, how do you kind of, you know, make Blackbeard interesting as a pirate? You know, you got the corny lines and everything like that. Like, how am I going to work that in? And this one's in a story that we haven't released yet. And the writer, it just reminds me of Indiana Jones. So rather than focusing on Blackbeard, they focused on finding the remains of Blackbeard, and the people that were finding their remains kind of go through like the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, type of thing. They're going into a cave. There's all these traps and everything like that. So, yeah. Whenever I get stuck, I just move the problem onto someone else and go, oh, yeah, I really like this character. What do you think you could do with them? I would think so. Yeah. Cat's out of the bag now.
That's awesome. That's just brilliant. You know, because allowing your team to actually contribute is what allows things to become bigger than you yourself could possibly make something. You know, these things are bigger than just us. Your universe is bigger than just you, and you've allowed others to contribute to it. It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah, well, because, you know, another story that we've got in the new anthology coming out is like Pegasus. Now, I didn't want a talking horse, and as I said, I'm trying to base this in some form of it could be believable type of thing. So I was like, well, how do you bring in like Pegasus type of thing? So, you know, Stephen, who I co-created Terra Olympus with our sci-fi series, he came up with the idea of that one single feather remains of Pegasus. So rather than, you know, finding their remains and cloning him and everything, there was a one single feather from him still remains, and they clone Pegasus from that. And I was like, okay, but how are you going to incorporate that in the story? And he created an auction story. So literally, like, all these people are going, man, you know, I want this feather, you know, type of thing. And I was like, that's quite clever. And I don't think I would have come up with that idea myself. So this is why I really love letting people play around with different stories and everything.
So now, is Terra Olympus like XCT? Is it a big story like XCT is, and with the anthologies and the backstories and everything?
Not yet. So we've only got one volume out at the moment that we're hoping to get up on the marketplace real soon, and we've just finished our Kickstarter for Volume 2, which we raised $12,000 for, which is amazing. That's the highest Kickstarter we've done.
Congratulations.
And this one started differently. This has started quite small. So they're Last of Humanity's on a space station. They're hurtling through space trying to find a new home to repopulate type of thing. But there's something going on board Terra Olympus, and this engineer stumbles across this conspiracy. So it starts very small, and it's only now starting to expand. But I'm really excited, and if the title, doesn't give some away, all my books have some sort of history element to it. So Terra is like terraforming, and Olympus is Olympus for the Greek. So there's something that will come with that eventually. So I don't want to give too much away for the story, but that's been really good, because that one's been like a setting up the characters, a lot more dialogue. But then the action scenes are quite dynamic. We've been using a lot of MMA reference for doing the fight scenes. So that's where a lot of people have given us a lot of credit. They're like, man, I haven't seen fight scenes like that in a graphic novel before. So, doing arm bars, when you're grappling on the ground, rolling over, and how you draw that type of stuff. So Von Randall, our Singapore artist, has been amazing in doing that. So.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, I can't wait to see that. That sounds incredible. Now, now can people get Terra Olympus, or when is Terra Olympus coming out?
So Volume 1's available now. Terra Olympus Volume 2, we're literally just waiting for the Kickstarter funds to go to print. So it's totally completed and ready to go. And because we were able to raise, we only asked for $3,399. So to get $12,000, they've pretty much been able for us to go straight into Volume 3. And do that and have that created as soon as possible, type of thing. So this is the type of publishing business that I want to do, where we've got enough out of the first Kickstarter to make the next one, and then we build on that and we build on that, so that we're not having to play that game of catch up and trying to put in our own funds, and trying to, we've put all of our skin in the game to begin with, and then use Kickstarter to kind of, bump us up time after time when we do each one.
That's so awesome, because Kickstarter is such an awesome tool, and I kind of wanted to hit on that. So you have experience with Kickstarter. Could you just give some insight and understanding to creators out there who are getting into the game, or who have been in the game but are looking at that avenue as a possibility for them? Can you just give some insights, what Kickstarter can be like, what it takes? I know that it's a all-out drag-down race, like sprint to the end.
It is. We did a 50-day one, and then I've got XCT up at the moment, and that's another 30-day one, and 80 days straight is starting to get a bit of a grind. But for people, if they haven't done Kickstarter before, it's a great platform to raise funds to complete your book. Myself personally, and I believe this is true, is if people see that you've put skin in the game, then they're more inclined to back your project. So we have the book almost completed before we go to Kickstarter. So we pay our writers, our artists, our letterers, all that type of stuff, so that we're really only raising money for printing. And the reason behind that is we're then able to get those books straight out to people very quickly. They're not waiting 6-12 months, or the project falls over or something like that. So that would be one advice I would give to people, is that if you can put off launching a project and put some of your own skin in the game, then Kickstarter is a great avenue to build a fan base and to get that printing side of things done, which is always seems to be the highest cost of getting anything done. But Kickstarter is work, and a lot of people think, I'm just going to throw it up on Kickstarter, people will come to me and they'll give me my money. No,
build it and they'll come.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. The first one, was a lot of family and friends that got me over the line. I learned a lot from that. but it is a lot of work, and the more prepared you are and the more you learn about anything, the better the outcome you have. So there's heaps of podcasts that give you some good tips and tricks on things. Look at other campaigns that either you've backed or you've liked to see what they've done well. And I think sometimes being creators, that's the one thing we fall down about. We get so intent on creating that we forget that there's this business side of things that comes with comic books. And as much as people hate that and everything, if you want to be successful and you want to sell certain things, then you need to have at least some business acumen. And if you don't, then surround yourself with people that do. I am good at the business acumen side, so I've surrounded myself with great writers, great artists, and that type of stuff, so I can focus on what I'm good at and they can focus on what they're good at, type of thing. So but Kickstarter is, I think, a great avenue for indie creators, and to get an international audience, that's so difficult, type of thing. When you got 21 million in your whole country and you've got that in one city in America, type of thing. So yeah.
Right.
So with Kickstarter, I've heard so many different things. Like, you're on social media for a couple of hours every day in different groups, posting. You're doing updates directly on Kickstarter at least, once every 4 days, stuff like that. How much work do you actually put in on a day in these Kickstarter campaigns?
So I work full time at the moment. So I do all of this business stuff in my own time. But yeah, you're only going to get as much out of it as you put in. So if you only put in an hour of work, then you're not going to expect much out of an hour of work. But if you do an hour podcast, do an update, do an email and everything, that might take you 4 hours. Then you're going to get a lot more out of that 4 hours and a lot more interaction with your project than you will with an hour. So myself personally, I try to put in between 2 to 3 hours every single day. I try to do an hour in the morning of Facebook posts, sharing in groups, that type of stuff. Try and set an hour aside to do something like this, like an interview, a stream, a live feed where I can talk to people and direct them back to the Kickstarter, and then also like an update, as you said, or an email to my email list, or personal messages to people that might have backed previous projects but haven't backed this one. So a personal reach out to say, look, thanks for backing my last project, but I don't know if you've noticed, we've got the next one up. And sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't see the email or I didn't see the update, but thanks for reaching out, and they've backed it from that personal message, type of thing. So yeah, the answer to that is, I guess you only get out what you put in.
Yeah, and I mean that's just you. You still got a whole team working with you, so with everybody sharing out, yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's why Terra Olympus works so well with XCT. I kind of do a lot of that myself because it's my baby, my project. But with Terra Olympus, having Steven, the co-creator, so he was doing shares and streams when I wasn't doing shares and streams. So that 2 to 4 hours then turns into 6 to 8 hours. And you would see that trickle came in a lot more than it has for XCT when I'm doing all by myself. Look, my other guys that are involved have been great in sharing it out, but they're not as invested as it is if it's your own project. So, and I think moving forward, that's what I've decided to do, is start creating things with people, and this Talos of Sparta one that we've got out later in the year is like that. So then you've got those two fan bases and you're not trying to do it all yourself.
So you have a job and you are a creator publisher, am I correct? So you have multiple jobs. You're like everybody else in this industry. If you want to participate, you got to have a making job and then your comic book job, right?
Yeah, only so I was a stay-at-home dad for 2 years. So my wife is the breadwinner in our family. So we did the opposite. I stayed home with my little one for 2 years and focused and built up this business during that time. So she we would put my little girl Peaches into childcare 2 days a week, and those 2 days I solely focused on the business and improving myself. So I did some courses and stuff like that to build up my own business acumen and that type of stuff. Unfortunately, the convention scene, which is where I earned a lot of my money, started to go downhill over the last 12 months. And then this year, because of COVID-19, I've lost pretty much 75% of the business income. So I've had to kind of go back to work full time type of thing. So, which I've just been lucky enough that I work very close to home, so that I'm still able to put in a lot of time on the business. But the idea and the publishing way we're looking at going is that hopefully, if the books are paying for themselves, then whatever we sell outside of that, so via distribution or via convention sales, then that's profit, and I can start paying myself. And when I can start paying myself, then I can start paying other people, and then I'm just trying to build this nice and slow and not go too big too fast and then fall over and we've got nothing type of thing.
Oh, I think you're being super smart about it. The reason that I wanted to draw that, the fact that you are working multiples and still pushing forward on your dream is, I wanted to ask, what most motivates you? That's a lot of drive. That's a lot of drive you have to stay on top. And so what most motivates you?
Yeah. I've always, this might sound really cocky, but I've always wanted to be remembered for something, and to I guess have meaning to my life. And I'm not a very philosophical type of person, but when I go into a library and see my book in a library, or my graphic novel in a library, that could be there 100 years from now. Now, how many people can say that in 100 years they could have someone reading something that you've created, or it'd be great to have my daughter grow up and say, that book there, that's my dad's book. He did that, type of thing, or tell her children, this is what you're growing. So I think that's what kind of motivates me, and I enjoy storytelling, and I guess being a creative is it gets addictive. Once you create one thing, it's like, I've got this other idea, and I've got this other idea. So I've just had to pull myself in and do one project, show people that I can actually complete a project, and that it's will come out on a regular basis before I move on to another project, which I have done. Got that up and going, and now moving on to another one. So that was my motivation and behind it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is
building the legacy
too. So I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So could you tell me who are your inspiration? Who are your idols? Who are people that you look up to in the industry that have kind of pushed you to styles you like, things that have impacted you, and the way you tell your stories, and the art you look for and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I realized much older that I'm a visual learner. So if you show me how to do something, then I'm able to do it, and I'm able to pick things up quite quickly. So from a very young age, my mum was quite good in regards to buying comic books to get me to read. So my love kind of came out of that late 80s, early 90s. So I read a lot of the Jim Lee X-Men series. So that was my love. I've got like a print signed by Jim Lee Stan Lee and everything up in my house, my prize and joy, and that kind of reminds me, as you're saying before, with motivation. Every time I walk past that, I'm like, one day I want, someone to have my work up on their wall type.
I'll have it on my wall. I'll have it on my wall, Shaun. Boom! I got you. I got you.
Awesome. Just not upside down like the Australia behind.
No. Oh man, what are you talking about? I can't believe you point that out, man. You just made my Easter egg.
I have to slide it in there.
Simple, man. I just wanted to see if anything would fall out like a piggy bank.
Now he's gonna do it. It'll be upside down on his wall and be like, "Oh, it's from Australia." So,
dude, I'm good, man. Especially that really awesome one. I really love Enter Barack. And he's just sitting there. Oh, bad. I'm like, oh, that'd be an awesome picture.
So Jim Lee was my first inspiration. And then I was a big fan of X-Men 2099, and they did this 3-run series of X Nation 2099. I loved the artwork on that. And it wasn't until years later, when I kept continuing reading the X-Men series, that Humberto Ramos came on to X-Men, and I was like, oh man, I love this artwork. And then there was this Spider-Man series. I'm like, oh, I love this artwork, and it was Humberto Ramos on all 3 of them. And I was like, oh, there you go. I'm visually drawn to a certain style type of thing. So and then I love J. Scott Campbell's covers. So I was very, very lucky with XCT. Jerry Gaylord, who works for Boom, or did work for Boom Studios, and now works for Blizzard. He I reached out to him and said, oh, I've got this idea, would you be interested? And he said yes. So and then I've just surrounded myself with some local guys that have just kind of gotten knowledge off them. Colin Wells, who worked on Star Wars Invasion and Dread, he's a local in Melbourne, so I've gotten ideas off him. Tom Taylor, who pretty much has worked on everything in America as a writer at the moment, of trying to leech as much information as possible as from the people around me. But in regards to who inspires me, my wife is number one. She's amazing at her job. She's an amazing wife. She's an amazing mother, and to do everything that she does, as well as support me. She's the person that makes me better, type of thing, as a better person, as a better
you know what the saying is, right? Behind every great creator is a better woman, right? Is a greater woman. Behind every great creator is a great woman.
That's right. She tells me that all the time. No. It's when I first came up with this idea, and I was talking to her about it. Literally, I thought, oh, she's going to shoot this down and go, "You're effing crazy! Like, seriously, you want to write comic books? You want to create?"
She sounds like my wife. My wife would have been like,
yeah. So, but she
wife was, pretty upset about that.
She was the opposite. She was like, if that's something that you love, if that's something that you'll enjoy, then do it. Or you just need to be smart and understand how you can monetize things if you want to create that as a career. So I think that's why I place such an important part on business acumen, because if you're happy just to create, and people are happy just to create and never see a cent from their work, well then that's great. But if you want to do this full time and get paid for it, then you need to understand at least some sort of business acumen in regards to how you're going to sell things, where you're going to sell things, how many do you need to sell. It's really surprising, like how many people will print books and not understand what they need to sell them for to actually make any money and
right.
That type of stuff. Like especially when they're starting out, they're like, oh, everyone sells it for $2.99, so I'm going to sell it for $2.99. I'm like, yeah, but dude, your printing costs are $3. Like you're losing straight away, not to mention your time, the cost of the table, wherever you're selling it. So,
my first run ever, I did the same thing, and I think I was losing about 50 cents on each comic that I put, and it was horrible.
Yeah. You just you know, and it's all a learning experience. You don't know those things, but
Do you even
know,
know that you're losing money when you first start going? Because I could see how you would be like, oh, everybody's selling it for $3. You get your print run and you start selling, and you're selling,
no,
so you're like, yeah. But
you're
then
on
all of a sudden,
you're on a high because you're like, oh my god, I can't believe someone actually bought this. I am so good. I'm the best. You know, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire. And then you walk out with your $300 and go, oh, that show cost me $450 to do. I'm going to do that $300 and put it into the next one. Yes, you know, type of thing. And you're like, you don't even think that you lost $150 plus the printing costs. You're just like, oh, $300 to put into the next show. Yeah. So.
I was sitting on the couch one day, adding everything up, and I was like, "Oh crap!" So yeah, same thing.
that's like the worst realization. You go from, yes, everybody likes my stuff, to, oh wait, I can't afford to do this.
No, I ended up actually having to sell that couch that I was sitting on.
Joe Frazier in chat says yes with an exclamation point. So it's like some viewers are agreeing with this one.
Oh, that's classic. That's classic. So, now I know that we've already done some spoiler alerts, and I'm sorry for that. But the current project that you're working on, so XET is an ongoing, right?
Yep.
And then Terra Olympus is just taking off, and then there's another project that's just getting started.
Oh man, I'm super excited about this one. As I said, I'm a bit of a history guy, but it's called Palace of Sparta. It's set about 100 BC, but we've changed the timeline to AL, which stands for after Leonidas. And the reason behind that is Sparta has become the powerhouse of Europe. So they defeat Rome and become the powerhouse of Europe. So the timeline and everything is based on Spartan history type of thing. So this has been super exciting in regards to doing some investigation into the history, what their lifestyle was like. You know, it's really interesting to find that out of all the cultures, the women in Spartan culture were quite revered because they were the only women that could give birth to Spartan men. So they had quite equal says. They could actually own land even after their men had passed away.
Wow.
If they weren't satisfied by their husband, they could actually leave them for someone else, which is like unheard of in.
So these are legitimate historical facts about Sparta.
Yep.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's crazy.
So this is kind of like the Man in the High Castle, but set in after Leonidas.
That's a perfect way of putting it. Yes. Yeah. So it's like plenty of action. We've thrown in a bit of that mystical side of things. So we've got the priestess is kind of seeing visions, and history is trying to rectify itself, type of thing. So you've got what did happen, and then what happens in our story. So you can see what did happen in history, but then you know, Sparta won instead, type of thing. So that's kind of a really cool aspect that will flow through the story at different points in the history. So and then we've just taken liberties with the bad guys in this. We've just created another culture or something. Like back then, you know, we don't know every single culture that was around. So I've kind of taken bits and pieces out of different cultures and made up my own one, which I'm kind of excited about. I'm always been a big fan of dinosaurs and all that type of stuff, but the frozen era, so all the bad guys seem to have like an animal that they're involved with. So we've got like a saber-toothed tiger. The main bad guy rides a woolly mammoth.
So are they like Neanderthal? Are they like Neanderthal in I don't want you to give away too much now. I better be careful. I
Hey,
did
he
ask
said
about
woolly
that. I
mammoth. It could be
apologize.
Sesame Street.
It could be Sesame Street.
So what was
That's
the
it.
name again?
Talos of Sparta, so TLOS.
And when are you
Sparta.
rolling this campaign out?
So later this year, so we've got the first 5 pages totally completed. So I'm just getting them colored at the moment, and we'll have them up on a preview Kickstarter page. Yeah, so we're looking to release probably September, October.
Now, is the Kickstarter going for that right now?
No. So that's when we'll do Kickstarter.
Okay.
So
only Terra Olympus Kickstarter is going right now, and that's the link that we're sharing, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, XCT.
Oh,
Terra
okay.
Olympus.
So
Terra Olympus is done. So that's finished. And XCT is going like nice and confusing, but
The Fractured World.
Yep. You're like,
but we've got a Facebook. We've got a Facebook page for Talos of Sparta, and everyone seems to be really intrigued with this. Like, XCT took me about 2 years to get to 500 likes, and that Talos of Sparta page is already up to like 17 or 800 likes already.
Wow.
So, and we've only posted a couple of panels and behind the scenes stuff and some character designs. That's it. But people kind of like the concept of it, which is kind of cool. So
it does sound quite interesting.
Are you going to be doing kind of a anthology series on the Talos of Sparta as well?
I haven't thought about that yet. So with this first book, we're going to release a single issue, so a first, because everyone likes that first, and then after that we're going to go straight into a graphic novel. So that's what we're kind of going to do with all of our series moving forward. So do a single first issue, which everyone can kind of, that collector can collect, and then go straight into a graphic novel. So we've got book distribution. So, you can pick up our stuff from Amazon, from all of the online bookstores and everything like that. So doing single issues, we kind of have found that it's not financially viable to kind of do that. So we do a single issue, raise as much as we can off the single issue, and then jump straight into the graphic novel. So
that's an excellent strategy. That really is an excellent strategy, because the single small issue, it's a lot of work, and it's little bits of money. I mean, because you can only sell them for so much, right? I mean, I hear some people say, "Oh, I'm going to sell my comic book for $10," and it's like, well, you might be able to at a convention, but to sell even if you're shipping it straight to them, there's very few people that are going to pay $10 for a 27-page comic. Where when you get into a larger volume, you have 60 to 100 to 150 pages, and you can get $20, $30, $40 for it. It changes the game of what you can actually generate, which is excellent. I love that strategy. That's fantastic.
For an indie creator, you can tell a little bit more of a story as well in a graphic novel. Like, it takes so long to get out single issues that sometimes we found that it was hard. We're losing a little bit of our audience by the time that we could get the next one out. Where, if we provide them a graphic novel, that's yes, it's an ongoing series, but it's a complete story in that graphic novel, and then the next graphic novel is another complete story. So that you could just pick up that book and read that book and go, yep, sweet, I'm happy, and can just put it down and never read another book in the series again. Or you can continue on the series and go, okay, well, I want to know what happens next, so on and so forth.
So I'm gonna ask a question, but I'm gonna show how much I don't know. So is that the arc in that one volume, or is the arc what would go over multiple volumes?
The arc will go over multiple volumes.
Okay.
But then there's I guess I play whenever I write, or that it's I always think of like TV shows. So do an episode format. So it'd be like it ends on a cliffhanger for the next graphic novel. So yes, the episode ends and you know what happened, but then there's a cliffhanger or a hook for the next issue. So if people watch TV series, they're like, look, I watched the first 3 episodes, I know kind of the gist of the story, but I didn't go on from there. but then those people that are like, I love this series, then there's that hook for them in each of the graphic novels. And then, you know, there's what happens in the graphic novel, and then there's the big story arc and what's going on in the wider universe and all that type of thing. So yeah.
You're such a pro. You're such a pro. Dang, dude. Oh, that's awesome. So, do you have any advice for anyone just joining the industry for the first time or looking to join the industry? People who want to be a part of this industry that doesn't seem to pay all that well yet, but we're going to change that.
You just do it. I think you know, the worst thing about being a creative is procrastination. Am I good enough? Is it good enough? Can I release this? You know, doesn't look pretty enough. I don't like. I tell you what, the only way you're going to get better is do something. You know, if you're an electrician, do you go to work and go, oh, you know, I can't wire that up? No, you need to practice it. You need to learn how to do something, and then once you've done it, you're like, I tell you what, I did that type of thing. And comics, and I think this is the frustrating thing in our industry is we're like, oh, it's a hobby. Oh, it's a this. Well, if you treat it like that, yes, that's exactly what it is. But if you want this to be your profession, then you need to treat it like any other profession. That means if you need education, you get education. If you need to increase your skills on certain areas, you increase on skills. If you need to pay someone to teach you or to do something for you because you can't do it yourself, you need to do that. So you need to treat it like any other profession. I think the hardest thing we have is like, they're like, well, you know, I want to be a writer, but you know, I can't make any money off that. And I'm like, well, you know, do you have an agent? Do you have, you know, have you gotten your own contract? Have you done any of the stuff that a professional writer would do? No. Well, then that's why you're not a professional writer, type of thing. So yeah, for anyone that's starting out, just start creating. You know, just start creating. If it's writing, start writing. You know, you might not make money off the first thing you write, but you might, you know, send that out to someone and say, hey, I don't have any money to pay you to draw, but you know, let's go 50-50 in this. Here's what I've written, and you draw it, and we can do this together. Or you know, you might post up in forums or blogs and say, hey, can I get some critiques on this? There's, you know, a lot of different avenues if you look to get started. But the first thing you have to do is actually start. You just have to start.
Well, and I have to say, you know, being introduced to this community, what I would say recently, it is full of people that are willing to help. That's one thing I see a lot of. I'll see people posting in groups and forums and stuff and just asking questions, and the response is always awesome. People are always saying, you know, hey, stick with it. You know, hey, look at this, giving real good feedback, real good numbers, I see a lot of honesty in relation to the answers coming to people. It's not like, you know, building them up falsely. It's like, oh, hey, you know, look at your lines. Oh, hey, that one portion looks a little bit off. You want to go back to the human form and just look at this section of it. Like, I've seen some just amazing things from the community. That's one thing I love about the comic book industry community.
Oh yeah,
they're
it's always
really
constructive criticism. So
yeah.
which is great to see.
Yeah, I think when you reach out and put yourself out there, yes, sometimes you're going to get, there's always negative people in every type of community. You know, nowhere's perfect. But in saying that, like, the majority of people are genuinely there to kind of help. They're not there to tear you down. They're not there to belittle you or anything like that. They're there to make you better. So you got to understand, when you put yourself out there, sometimes you're not going to hear what you want to hear, but you need to be okay with that and receptive to that. And the people that seem to grow quicker are those ones that take feedback on board. It's those ones that are resistant to the feedback are the ones that kind of stagnate and stay where they are. So.
And so, okay, so we're kind of getting to the top of the hour. So I have another question that I want to ask, but this one's a little iffy. What problems do you see with the comic book industry? I want to say prior COVID, but also leading into these times that we're in right now. But what problems do you see, and how do you see those problems being resolved?
I've pretty strong opinions of this. I really love my local comic book stores and comic book stores in general. The issue that I find is I come from a retail background.
Mm-hmm.
How can you walk into a store and the person behind the counter not even say hello to you, not try and do an add-on sale? I understand it's not Macca's, but it comes back to it's a business, and this is the biggest thing that I've you find that have fallen over. Like pre-COVID, everyone would go to their comic book store. They'd have their pull lists and everything like that. But a lot of those stores didn't have online stores.
Right.
COVID-19 hits. What happens? They can't even sell what they've got online because they haven't even invested the time to have a website other than maybe a Facebook page to say, this is where you can find our store. So for me, and I feel that the actual comic book store needs to evolve. It's the same as it was when I was, a kid. Any other industry has evolved over time, and I would love, especially when you're a new reader coming into a comic book store, it can be very daunting. I'm surprised that you in comic book stores you haven't had a section going new comic book readers. That's one thing that I'm just like, how can you not have that in your store? So you're a new comic book reader that comes in, new comic book reader. These are some essential things. Marvel, DC, IDW. Here's some essential books that you can read if you've never read comics before. Just certain things like that, like displays of certain comics on your stands. Like every single retail store has an add-on that's right at the counter that they add on. So
upsells.
Even if it's upsells. Even if it's a back issue or something, and you're like, oh hey guys, have you seen this this story? It's a really unique story, or it's a one-off, or it's a one-shot, or whatever. We're selling this for $1. It's an extra $1. How many say you might get 5 out of 10 sales. That's an extra $5. Like there's all these small little things that I feel are so easy to implement, but the resistance that you get off store owners is that we've done this, we've always done this, we'll be here and we'll always be here. And even with this COVID scenario, they're like, we'll survive no matter what. And it's like, yes, but with anything, we need to adapt and change. And, with you guys coming onto the market and bringing on that collectible side in the digital space, this is another thing for stores to kind of go, okay, well, how can we be involved with that? Not right. Be a competitor. How can we be involved with that? And bring our readership base and reward our readership base with this other service type of thing. And that's, I don't know. Please don't
that's
send
awesome.
hate mail to crypto. Don't send hate mail.
Dude, that was awesome. It's like we are the answer. I didn't even prep that question.
Let's reach back onto chat real quick, Jared. Real fast. Looks like Joe from Facebook says just backed XCT on Kickstarter. Looking forward to it. So cool. That's awesome news.
Nice. Joe, love you, man.
We've also got a Lucas says reading the first book in the series and loving it. Very cool,
Lucas. He's in Australia.
And so real quick, I'm also just going to point out that anyone watching the video right now, upside down Australia there. Anyone that's watching the video right now, you guys can actually go to cryptocomics.com/u/comics2movies. That link's actually going to be right there on your screen. It also should be in the notes, and the links for whatever platform you're watching it on. You can sign up for Crypto Comics right now. Shaun here is actually hosting an open invitation event. Normally, it's very limited to be able to get into the system, but right now you can actually just sign right up. Check out what he's got.
I just want to point out. Oh, dude, did somebody just use a dial-up to the internet? I heard it. Did you guys hear that?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I forgot to say.
Oh man, we're on dial-up. Oh man,
Well,
there's only one.
Sign up now so that we can afford to get off AOL.
And just to add to the sign up that that's being sponsored by Shaun Keenan, comic book shops can sign up for this marketplace. This is something that we very much believe in. M. Scott Russell and Fry have friends who own comic book shops. It's something that we truly have put a lot of thought and invested a lot into to make it possible so that comic book shops have an alternative to moving forward. Because, you know, one reason I think that comic book shops probably don't have websites and things of that nature is because they get stuck in that rut because it's always worked this way. They've been making sales this way, and it's hard to change. And then when you go to deal with a website, because I have a website outside of Crypto Comics Marketplace that I deal with that Apogee doesn't deal with for me, and it's really hard. It's hard to maintain, and it's hard to know what's going on. And then something happens, and you're like, I don't know who to call. You know?
Hallelujah.
Oh my gosh! It's so. Thank you
all the time. So yeah,
yeah. Thank you, Shaun. That is a message that we do want to get out. You know, trying to create a space for everyone's comics and for everyone in the comic book industry to participate in is a major goal of ours. And of course, you know that because you've been with us a long time. I really do want to give props to Shaun. He when he brought in his stuff, he was among the group that broke all of our stuff because his stuff was big and high res and well done, you know, and those are the things that we are relying on right now to make this marketplace, you know, creators and fans coming in and using things and then telling us, hey, because I remember, Shaun, you were like, yeah, this is okay. This is okay. Yeah. Here's a couple of books. Yeah. Okay. I got to go make money and see it. And we're like, all right, thank you, Shaun.
but yeah, just as you were saying before, my philosophy or the quote that I live by is be comfortable at being uncomfortable, because that is where growth comes from. So if you can get comfortable at being uncomfortable all the time and change and all that type of stuff, then I'll tell you what, you'll be in a good stead in regards to
like
anything you do in life.
Speaker, dude. Dang, man. Preach it, baby. Preach it. Woo! Be uncomfortable. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's so true. You know, that's so true. People got to put themselves in uncomfortable places. I definitely put myself in an uncomfortable place when I joined this industry. Matt can relate. He was there the day that I said, what was it? Deathstroke?
I was like,
Deathpool. That's what it was. He's like, what's your favorite character? And I'm like, Deathpool. And he's like, what? It's like, you just meshed DC and Marvel, dude. I'm like, what?
So because of that, we try to make sure we keep him in an uncomfortable place as frequently as possible.
Well, Shaun, it has been such a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. Shaun Keenan, everybody, with Comics2Movies. His links, you can please follow him on Facebook, follow him on Twitter, Instagram. Check him out. He's the #1 selling comic in Australia, soon to be in the world, probably, the way he drives. Thank you so much, Shaun.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate your time and your spotlight on me. It's always great to have people like yourselves give us some time to kind of reach a broader audience. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Cool. Okay. Well,
you're not gonna say anything, M. Scott. I'm giving you time. I'm like keeping my mouth shut here.
that rarely happens.
I wasn't expecting that. No, we
Guys are terrible.
we really do appreciate all the time you're able to spend with us, and stick around after the show so we can talk a little further. I got some more questions that I want some spoilers that I won't tell anybody, but
Why do you do this? Why do you do this to
Brutal,
us?
dude. You're just saying that while we're on live. You're like, we just got to get some insider info.
oh
Just
yeah,
a little bit.
the way to do it.
That's you
And-
gotta have a perk to the job, don't you? That's the perk to the job.
Hey, I ain't
That's
gonna
what
lie.
we do.
These are the perks.
And keep in mind, anybody that's watching, Kickstarter right now does have a warning up on their page saying that they will be down for 15 minutes for scheduled maintenance this evening. So if you do jump on there and you're looking for Fractured Worlds to back them, come back in 15 minutes if you don't see it. But pretty easy to find. All the links for all of his social media and his Kickstarter are right there on whichever platform that you might be watching this on. And go support our guy, man. Shaun's awesome.
Yes, Shaun, you rock.
Amen to that.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See you, everybody.